Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whichever part of the world you're from. This is Kavita Ramchand from Life Success Coaching in Mauritius. I don't know why my looking sideways. Anyway, let's continue. So I remind you that I'm reading the book You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor every Tuesday, every Thursday on my YouTube channel now. Before I used to do it on Facebook. If you want to find all my recordings, they are on either Facebook, but from chapter 3 onwards I started doing it on YouTube. And it's a phenomenal book that I'm reading by Bob. The title of the book is You Were Born Rich. And today the chapter I'm reading is chapter 9. There's one more chapter to go, which is chapter 10. But chapter 9 is very interesting because I think chapter 9 can make the biggest difference in our life. It did for me because it's about do not think in reverse. And I must say that a lot of people are thinking in reverse, which is not going to lead to good results in their lives. So, if that idea only just makes you understand that you need to start thinking in harmony with all the laws of the universe, you can just turn your life around like night and day. So, without further ado, let me continue reading chapter 9. So, it was about a big cyclone that had hit a town in Canada, and there was a lot of damage done. Cars turned upside down, houses were destroyed. So, there was this one person by the name of Bob Templeton. He passed by that city and he saw how it was destroyed, and he wanted to do something to help the people. And he works at telemedia, like a radio station in Canada. So he called all the people one day, and he asked them, how would you guys like to raise $3 million in 3 hours 3 days from now and give it to the people of that town where there's been so much damage? Now everyone likes to help. Everybody has that humanitarian side of us that we want to do something for others. Sorry. They all said, sure, we'd like to. He then drew a large T, letter T, underneath. He had put 333 on top, and then he drew a large letter T. On one side, he wrote why we can't. On the other side, he wrote how we can. On the side he wrote how we can, under the words why we can't, Bob drew a large X. As he placed the X on the flip chart, he said, now, there is no place to record the ideas we think of which explain why we can't raise $3 million in 3 hours 3 days from now, regardless of how valid they may be. He continued by explaining, when anyone calls out an idea which suggests why we can't, everyone else must yell out as loud as they can, next. That will be our command to go to the next idea. Ideas are like cars on a train. One always follows the other. We will keep saying next until a positive idea arrives. Bob smiled and continued to explain that opposite the X on the other side of the flip chart, directly under the words how we can, I will write down every idea that we can come up with on how we can raise $3 million in 3 hours 3 days from now. He also suggested in a very serious tone of voice that everyone will remain in the room until we figure it out. We are not only going to think of how we can raise $3 million immediately after we originate the ideas, we are going to execute them. There was silence again. Finally, someone said, we could do a radio show across Canada. Bob said, that's a great idea, and wrote it down under how we can. Before he had it written on the right hand side of the flip chart, someone said, you cannot do a radio show across Canada. We don't have radio stations across Canada. Since telemedia only had stations in Ontario and Quebec, you must admit that there was a pretty valid objection. However, someone in the back of the room in a rather soft voice said, next. So here I'm going to tell you that this is something that we all need to understand, that the reason was very, very valid. Yes, there was no radio station in uh, all across Canada. There was only in Quebec and Ontario. The reason was so valid that they could say, okay, we cannot do this. Did they say yes? No. They said next. Why? Because there has to be another reason. There has to be a solution to the problem. And if you think of it, you will find the solution. That's the message that the author wants to give here. That yes, there could be the most biggest wall in front of a person that says you cannot do something. But there has if there is a problem, we just have to understand that the solution exists. There cannot be a problem without its solution, because both are two sides of the same coin. So if you have to find the solution, you have to think. And this was a group of people who were there and who had to put their minds to work and think of ideas, only ideas, on how they could do something. So this is a very, very important lesson, because you know a lot of times, especially in childhood, when kids are small. I remember one incident very well when my 10 months old baby was trying to climb on the bed. It would have been so easy for me to just pick him up and put him on the bed. But did I do him justice by doing that? Did I do good for him by doing that? Not really. Instead, I had told him, come on, you can do it. You can do it. He was 10 months old. It was difficult for him to climb. But when I started telling him, you can do it, come on, you can, he suddenly got the energy. And he suddenly started like striving more to go up. I don't think he was able to do it by himself. We needed to help him. But the thing is, we have it's exactly the same thing for life. First, yes, we say there is God. I totally believe in that. But God's not going to do anything for you. God has given everyone a beautiful mind to think. And we can think. And if you can think of if you think, you'll form an idea. And the moment you get an idea and you act on it, your results will change. But if you keep looking at your obstacle and say, I cannot do this, there's nothing I can do, well, that's more of what you're going to see. More of resistance, more of blocks, more of obstacles. So even if you have a great obstacle and you can think of a solution and you focus on that solution so much, the obstacle has to go. It will become small because you're giving power to the idea of what you want to do, right? So this is a very, very important lesson through this story, that we can understand that if there is a will, there is a way. And they really wanted to do that. Bob Templeton was the only guy who really wanted to do something, but he couldn't do it alone. So these are the ideas he brought forward to get a group of people to work with him so they could do it together. Like they say, one, you're alone, two, you're 11. And if everybody could work like that in the world today, won't we create a better world for everyone? Won't we be living in a more joyful world? Let me just drink some water. So I want you to really think today, if you're facing some kind of challenge or obstacle, what we how can you solve it? Think of that. Don't think of the obstacle, because the obstacle is already there. You cannot change it from there, but you can rethink how you can solve it. So thank you for being here. I will not be able to see you on this Thursday, but I will definitely see you on Tuesday next. Thank you. Bye bye.